begin with love and gratitude, especially Betty, Lisa, Ina, and Spencer. Thank you, and I love you. And whether you guys know this yet or not, thank you and I love you. The love of humanity, right? It doesn't even matter if I understand yet your consciousness, your preferences, the personality, the imprints upon you. None of these things actually matter to me. I actually come here as somebody who already loves you. I hope you can feel that. I bring a lot of energy. We together have the agreement that we are in what I'm going to call a field of trust with the absence of judgment, and you are safe and free to be yourself absolutely, positively, deeply, and completely. And I am here to support you in your expansion. And as I say, all that's required is the willingness for you to allow more for yourself in your life. That's it. Don't be afraid. So I have one request, and it is that you, madam, scoot so that I can see your face at all times without being blocked by the computer screen. Thank you. Thank you. Now, tonight is a satsang. And I think you know what that means by now, because first of all, you're here, and second of all, we've been just blasting it everywhere, right? So it's like a spiritual talk. That's it. It's non-denominational. There's nothing here to offend. And by the way, I never require that you believe as I do or even agree with me, because I respect you in the moment you stand in, right? With everything that has been known by you, every perspective that you have as you navigate, free will in the life. But I am here to share myself with you freely, deeply, and completely in these conversations. You can all hear me, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, now if there ever comes a moment, and hi, Anna, right? Yes. Hi, and thank you. Will you stand up for a second? So Anna wrote, please. Anna wrote an article. Is it called the Sonoma Sun?
Sonoma Valley Sun.
Sonoma Valley Sun. She actually wrote an article about this.
Oh.
So really to promote it and increase awareness and to invite people here to this studio. So thank you. There's someone in the waiting room there. Oh, you are? Okay, thanks. So thank you, Anna, and a pleasure to see you again in Another just note is that I understand that you normally have a yen class in this time slot that you love very much. So I want to invite you to move and stretch freely in any position you'd like as we're talking. So if you want to shoelace, if you want to twist, anything you want to do, move freely throughout your body as we're talking. Okay. Here's what I have selected, not only as a topic for the satsang tonight, but also kind of the theme for the entire weekend. Yeah, I wish I had my camera to just walk around and capture moments like that. Here's what we're going to talk about tonight. Number one, there are only two topics, but I always allow room for spontaneity and specificity. So although I really only have two thought streams for tonight, it gets to go however it goes. Sometimes it goes like a tree that starts with a trunk and then it seems to veer off into tangents, but it's always still a continuation of the same trunk. Sometimes it becomes spherical in conversation, the energy of it. So we start with a single point of focus and we expand and we expand and we expand. And the conversations take on different energetic forms and I just let it shape itself. I don't decide in advance what that will be like. Any and every contribution is welcome. All of the contributions are welcome. And they're welcome in real time. Because if you want to say something in that moment, I want to know what it is. And I will keep myself on track by just a pen in my hand so I can remember where I was before I branched off with the question, right? And that way, it can be really intimate, deep, and personal. And if you know me, you know I like it like that, right? I'm all about my relationship with you. We have a connection. In fact, we are one. Yes. So what we're talking about tonight, two things. Number one, what actually is the difference between fear and intuition? How can you tell what's fear and what's intuition? Now, that's a natural segue for the second topic, which is the voices that you hear, your thoughts, how can you discern between ego and higher self? Kind of like the same question, isn't it? It's very different. But it starts to align and make sense. So let's start with that. I would like you, please, to just take a moment, close your eyes maybe, take a deep breath, and I'm going to ask you to contemplate your life. Contemplate your life in this moment. And I want you to be able to find where you have fear in your life. Where is the fear in your life? Now, as you contemplate, I will tell you that there really are only so many things that people are afraid of. There's really only so many choices. Some things that people are afraid of are, first of all, fear of loss, losing something that you cherish, that you covet. But there's even more to it than that, isn't there? Something that you have and you're afraid that if you no longer have it, you'll never have it again. You'll never be worthy. You'll never find something as good. Another thing to be afraid of, stability or a sense of security. Sometimes it's with respect to money. People have a lot of fear around money. Harm or violence. Maybe you're afraid of, like, your neighbor. Maybe you're afraid of the state of the world. The harm, the violence may be related to travel. Health, sickness, disease. But generally, it's far more esoteric than that. Generally, people are more afraid of things like being unworthy, being undeserving of love or unlovable. Somehow, along the way, we got the idea that we were unworthy or unlovable. And as we carry it with us, we have a self-perception that we project into the world and look for evidence, and that one is a biggie. There's a lot of fear around things like, this weekend, whether or not you're good at something. I'm not good at it. Oh no, I'm not good at it. Afraid to learn new things because it might take some falling down. It might take some making mistakes, right? And you don't want to subject yourself to that kind of failure. That's a fear, right? What others will think, biggie. Something you might not be able to handle. Afraid you won't be able to handle it. And that largely lives in the emotional realm. Being heard. Afraid to be heard. Being seen. Afraid to be seen. Being in a position of power or leadership. There's a lot of things we're afraid of. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and jump to the punchline on one of these, and that is that if you are a person who feels that you really like to stay in control, that's a response to fear. So there are a lot of ways that we can actually determine where's the fear in our lives. Yeah, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but the biggest one in my life was like holding yourself in a place of unhappiness. Why are you holding yourself in a place of unhappiness? Why do you not make a move? Why do you not make a change? Why do you not allow something different for yourself in your life? The answer is always fear, and that's all there is to it. Okay, so I want you to tap into where the fear is in your life and what you might be afraid of. And that's what we're really going to unpack tonight. conversation. Now, let's start to just look at the balance, the polar opposite between fear and intuition. And I want to tell you that fear, your response to fear, whether it's in your body, whether it's in your choices, whether it's in your relationships, and whether it's in your life, fear will contract you. Fear always contracts and constricts. It aggravates, it agitates, and I am going to say it anticipates. We're going to be talking about that anticipation more when we talk about the difference between the ego and the higher self. Fear will keep you awake at night. Does anyone ever lose sleep at night? You either can't sleep because there's something on your mind, you're worried about it, or you fall asleep, you wake up and you cannot go back to sleep. There's something that kept you up all night with worry, sleeplessness. That's very clearly fear. So let's start to look at some of the opposites with intuition. Whereas fear contracts you, of course intuition expands you. It frees you, literally liberates you. Fear solves, resolves, and relieves. Hi, Simon. Those problems. Fear will help you rest, relax, and be at peace in your waking state, in your sleep state. In the absence of fear, with intuition, sleep like a baby, right? The fear protects the ego identification. The intuition reveals the true essence of your higher self. Your fear speaks in a voice that is loud, urgent, panic, and reactionary. Intuition is calm, present. That'll be a higher self conversation. And clarity. I think we're going to talk more about clarity in a little bit when I give you some examples. Fear has a, if then, or anticipation, reaction. It can start to feel like you have no control. Fear will have you believe that you have no control in your life. And then, so the fear creates this false belief. And then you have an emotional reaction to the idea that you're out of control. The emotional reaction to an idea that you're out of control looks like panic or anxiety. It's typically a projection into the future, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Yes, so far so good?
Yes.
Yeah. Your fear, okay, well this is really more ego, but I'll say it now because I wrote the note now. Your fear is the egoic construct that only resides in the past and the future. It activates the past, projects it into the future, and absolutely positively skips over the present moment, which is where the higher self resides, and that's where your true power is. Because I am going to tell you that you are you're choosing in every single moment. And your choices need not be determined by a past choice. You are free to choose now. You are free to choose now. You are free to choose now. In the present moment is where your power resides. Fear says to you, well, it's always been that way. So it will always be that way. I'm going to pull out an example. There's always been war, and so there will always be war, right? He's always been angry, and so he always will be angry. That's egoic construct. That's where fear and separateness reside, as opposed to intuition. And the voice of intuition in that case will always, first and foremost, be in pure time presence, where you understand actually, it's already become one conversation. It's almost hard to separate those out. Your higher self resides in the present, is not reactionary, and actually informs the field. from a higher purview. We're going to start to get into that now, I guess. The intuition actually supports your authenticity, your ability to connect to your truth. That alone is very hard. Connect to your truth, come from love, and actually feel safe to say. To actually care, Lily, as much about how you feel as you care about the person with whom you may be sharing what I call an extraordinary truth, which happens to be the most difficult conversation to have. So, yeah, here we go. Fear makes you small. Fear limits you. Fear is perceiving a risk and saying no to an opportunity in response. Right? Fear contracts you in your life. Fear shows sometimes as distrust, self-isolation, separateness. It's all fear. It's very clear when you just look at the qualities. Not all fear is bad. You realize that, right? If you see a rhinoceros, storming toward you, then you should move, right? It's a healthy response. Fear has a place. It has a use. Okay, I have to say this. It's not in the notes and I'm limited by time, but I have to. Because we're a vibrational being in a vibrational plane. And a problem is a frequency. And when we respond from fear, which by the way is actually more like reacting, then we're actually responding from problem frequency, and that means we're actually adding to it. We're contributing gaining momentum and participating in the momentum of the fear. Think of that. Think of, let's say, for example, you're in a busy shopping mall and there's an earthquake and one person starts screaming and running and now you have a mass panic, right? Everybody is screaming and running. That's kind of the vibration of fear. Intuition supports you in a life that is very expansive. You allow the opportunities for yourself. You make the choices not rooted in fear, but rooted in authenticity and personal expression. Highest potential. It's a state of being. And it's always and only in pure time presence. So the weekend we're about to have together, it is some concentrated pure time presence. You're going to know, you're going to feel, you're going to sense, you're going to participate and align that we are fully present in this moment on every level of being, and there is nothing else. Nowhere else would rather be, nothing else would rather be doing, and no one else would rather be doing it with. Pure time presence. That'll be the higher self. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay. So fear leaves you stagnant in your life, stopped, stuck, small, limited in separateness. Separateness. Intuition is an expansive state of being, fullest expression on every level. You'll feel connection to yourself and to others through yourself. You'll trust. And can you gain a sense that trust is required in order for you to be in your receiving? As opposed to the fear that creates distrust and separateness, and then you've stopped the flow. Intuition is a flow state. Fear is a state of stagnation. Stop, stuck, small, limited, with distrust. You with me so far?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I asked you before, what are you afraid of? Where is the fear in your life? That was my work in actually yoga as a spiritual path. Really cleared out the fear. One of my bylines when I talk about these private sessions that I give, and by the way, that I've given to Dusty, I don't know if we've had a private, but you've been here multiple times when I was here, and thank you for that. I've given privates to Barbara, to Dominique, Spencer and I live that life. Ina, right? The private sessions are anyone who jumps on my Zoom is allowing more for themselves in their lives. They're allowing me to support them in their expansion. They've shown up, and by the way, even if they feel afraid, they showed up anyway, right? They did that for themselves. Why, by the way, why? If you're afraid of your greatness, then why do you show up? Because you're willing. You're willing to put the fear aside. Wow, I honor that. Wow, I support that. Yeah, move, stretch, whatever you need to do, be comfortable in your body. So what belief do you have, like a limiting belief that restricts your capacity or your potential? What limiting belief might you hold that stops you from the fullest expression of your greatest potential? Right? Like, do you ever have any dreams that you know you will never act upon? Fear. Right? And what would you do that you're not doing if you were able to release the fear? So if you let go of fear, you might let yourself learn something new, meet someone new, go somewhere new. It usually has to, oh, how about this? How about not new? How about the opposite? How about you might have the wherewithal to go back to something that you left that was not pristine. A relationship, a situation, a job, anything. Right? When you release the fear, you're really better equipped to just button up any business that wasn't left just so. And it changes the way you move forth in the new business. New people, new jobs, new places and things. Right? That fear is affecting your life. And I mean it is really affecting your life. Are there ways in which you hold yourself in a place of unhappiness? And if you do, then of course, why? Why do you continue to hold yourself in a place of unhappiness for like decades? I asked myself. Right? So that's the inner journey. That is I would call it the path of yoga, but that's the path through the self to the self, right? To kind of like live in a way that is free and fully liberated, safe to just navigate this terrain of dense field and just be in communion with the whole of humanity, right? It's just a very different way of being. Now, there's something else to talk about. Okay, let's do this one first. Now we're going to get into the difference between ego and higher self. And it's so funny because it's hard to even divide those conversations. They are one and the same. The ego, only the ego, can contain all that fear and act from that place. The higher self can only reside in pure time presence, and there is no fear there. You're connected to your eternal life force and source before this life and after, and you understand your power. You understand that you're a deliberate creator of your life. Right? You understand that what matters is not what happens, but how you respond. It will be what you make it, and you do get to choose. And in this way, you can actually transmute circumstances, situations, limitations, all the things. If you're right here, right now, connected to your power, informing the field from the higher purview, you can start to feel the difference within you, right? It actually feels different. When you come from fear, when you come from egoic construct. And we should talk about what that means. Okay, now I said to you, I don't require that you believe as I do or even agree with me. I'm definitely okay with that, but please let me share myself with you in the form of this message. We come in to this dense field. It seems like this is me. It seems like I'm contained inside this, and there's nothing between us, and then Betty's contained inside that. Right? But in fact, we're all vibrational beings in a vibrational plane, and what presents as this density of form called, Kim, is a compilation of egoic egoic construct, thought identification of self as separate, I am going to tell you that you're all divine in form, individuated through thought-forming fields, and that you've come to this dense field to have an experience, and to have an expression, and to learn a lesson. And that lesson is called a precognitive agreement. So, in other words, your soul came in and said, here's what I'm going to experience in this life. It was actually according to your choosing. And so you jumped in on a vibrational pattern that would introduce that lesson to you, and that's what we call, okay, don't hate me, choosing your parents. So you jump in on the vibrational pattern that will be the match for the lesson that you've intended, and then the lesson is introduced, and you set forth to navigate the terrain, right? And then it just, have you ever noticed that the patterns come and they come and they come and they come? They repeat themselves kind of like until you get it, right? That's called a precognitive agreement. So you have this egoic construct. It's who you think you are. And who you think you are was formed by a combination of factors. It was formed by who your mother was, who your father was, how they were together, who they told you that you are, how you felt about who they told you that you are, what you've chosen to learn through, limiting beliefs, agreements made in fear. Like all of these things make up that individual you that exists as a personality self. Oh yeah, we have to talk about that. We can't not. There's a resource I want to share with you. It's one of the most well-watched TED Talks of all time. And it's called My Stroke of Insight by Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. I ask everyone to watch it. Because whether Dr. Taylor even knew it or not, what she's talking about is yoga. So the left hemisphere of the brain is associated with your humanity, egoic construct, personality self. And the way that that left hemisphere processes is, first of all, in a spoken language. Which, by the way, it's like we have 26 letters in our alphabet. Letter, 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 letter makes a word, 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 word makes a sentence, sentence makes a paragraph. You hear this like, oh, paragraph, paragraph, paragraph makes a page, 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 page makes a chapter, 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 chapter makes a book. Oh, I'm exhausted, right? But that's the left hemisphere. It's the way we communicate, it's the way we think, it's the way we speak. That's related to the egoic construct. The right hemisphere of the brain, oh, I should stay with the left first and give you a little more. It resides in a concept that time, by the way, which is a construct, man-made construct, that time is linear, and it travels from past into, skips over present, and travels into future, that time is linear, and it resides in separateness. So it's analytical, scrutinous, and what I really mean by that is judgmental, separateness, judgment, survival, problem solving, and so on and so on. That's all pretty important. It's not a bad thing. It's actually required for us to function this dense plane with the olfactory senses. Okay. Thank you for giving me that thumbs up, Dusty. The right hemisphere of the brain is connected to your divinity. And we could say your higher self. And I want to tell you that your higher self does not have, is not defined by, and anything that defines you limits you, and so you are not limited by a specific culture, your level of education, your economic status, your birth order. Spirit has none of that. Spirit is just that we are one, and that's that. We are all aspects of the Creator in form, individuated, and we are all one. Spirit resides in pure time presence. And I am going to say on every level of being. And I'm going to lay that down for you all weekend long. And you will be in response to it, whether you know it or not, believe it or not, try to or not, and so on and so on. Divinity doesn't think in the words of a spoken language, written language. Divinity is like download. You got it. Picture says 1,000 words, right? So truth is recognized, truth is remembered. All these realizations come from from that higher source, higher self. Who you are in truth, who you are in truth. Do you know that this weekend, since I just said who you are in truth, I have specially created a yoga nidra tomorrow night. For tomorrow night we have a yin and yoga nidra, and we have a spot available, and I would like that spot filled. So if you have not signed up, please do. I've crafted a very specific yoga nidra that is actually going to help you access and connect to your higher self. Because every answer that you will ever need, every answer to every question you will ever ask already exists within you. And I'm actually going to give you a guided meditation, visualization for how to access it, how to integrate your higher self and the personality self, and how to draw upon it at all times. It's something I created actually for you, for this event, because of this satsang. I'm like, I'm gonna keep that thing rolling all weekend long. If this is what I'm talking about tonight, then in the Yin and Yoga Nidra, I'm gonna help them connect to the higher self and trust the truth of who they are. And in, by the way, on Sunday night, Spencer and I are doing a collaborative event, the chakra immersion. It's mostly a sound bath, and that is an activation. I am gonna go ahead and tell you that Spencer is a master. He's like a vibrational master. And actually we have one spot for that, and I would like that spot filled. So if you haven't signed up yet and you're thinking about it, please. I tell you this every time I come here for this. This is what we're doing, and we're just gonna lay the love down hard all weekend long, and I want you to receive it while we're here. I want you to have this while we're here. Sign up and come, please, and thank you. So there's one spot tomorrow night and the next night. Yeah. Okay. Where were we? Higher self. Yes. Now, the ego complicates things. By the way, excuses, defends, justifies, explains. There's none of that in the higher self. The voice of the higher self is clear and simple. And it's something like, God is. Or it's something like, love is the answer, I see you. Right? It's different. It's a very different feeling. That feeling thing is really important for us to talk about. Yeah, the fear-based egoic construct has like a need to be understood. You don't know me unless you know what I've been through. Oh, there's the narrative. The ego takes a self-perception, projects it into the field, and then looks for evidence of it. See, I told you. I'm damaged. See, I told you. I'm unworthy. See, I told you. Oh, I have a combination right there of ego and fear. Right? Whereas the higher self, pure time presence, knows the truth that you are worthy just by your own divine birthright, lovable, and I do mean exactly as you are. Higher self, the voice of higher self will say to you, I see you in your beauty. I see you in your right to be in this moment exactly as you are, with everything that has been known by you, with the load that you carry, with the choices you've made, the consequences of the choices, the way you feel about the choices. Truth, union, aha, aha. Higher self actually listens. By the way, listens from the heart, right? Ego hears. Higher self hears from the heart. Ego sees. Higher self sees. See and be only love. So it's really without the discernment of judgment. Higher self informs the field. The ego has judgment, attachment, resistance, and reaction. Those are my pillars to try to combat, to try to annihilate or kill the ego. Ego is to live in a field of non-judgment, non-attachment, non-reaction, and non-resistance. And it's not that the higher self, those don't even exist in the higher realm. It's not that you have to try not to, it's not even there. It doesn't exist when you're connected to higher self. You all know what the word namaste means, right? I honor the divine in you, that which is the same as the divine in me. When we are in that place together, we are one. Oh, there's higher self, for sure. And whereas ego, okay, I'm going to make a joke right now. Ego is like I'm not going to like get up and run to the door, but imagine for a second, the class is over, I'm going to jump up, run to the door, and on the way out, I'm going to give you like, okay, namaste, namaste everybody, see you later. It's like used as a greeting sometimes, right? But it really has some serious, it's like a ceremony, it's like a sanctitude, it's sacred. To say, I see you. You and I are one. You and I are the same. And I honor it. Namaste. Right? So it's easy to get whisked away in my daily activity and make that really converted down. But it's something of higher order for sure, and it just requires your presence and your consciousness to attend. Ego. Do it now or else. Remember that sense of urgency, that sort of sense of fear, kind of like screams in a loud voice of panic and anticipation, because the ego again takes the past and activates it, projects it into the present and anticipates repetition of a pattern. Where pure time presence higher self says, I'm right here, right now in my choosing, and I choose to inform the field from a higher purview. Normally I say this at the end, but I want to say it now because it fits here. The best advice that I was ever given in my life was from someone who said to me, every single decision in your life, no matter how big or how small, like what you have for breakfast or who you spend your life with, you make that choice as if you love yourself. Deeply and completely. Higher self, higher purview. That's not the ego. That's being really intentional about the navigation of the life. Knowing that you're in your choosing, and words are spells, right? Words cast spells, speaking word into form. So doing that from the higher place yields a higher result. Higher self. Let's see. The ego will protect itself. Can you hear the fear in that? Protect yourself from what? What do you need to protect yourself from? There's just fear in the statement of it, right? Where the higher self is really magnetized to the eternal light source and force before this life and after, and knows that you're informing the field of your choosing. You're standing in your power. You're speaking from a higher purview of self-love and love of actually all that is. And knowing that you're coming from love, coming from gratitude, which are the highest frequencies, knowing that you can trust yourself to speak your truth, and knowing that you are being guided. You are being guided. Oh, that's the power of tomorrow night's Yoga Nidra. You're being guided by your higher self actually in every moment. The question is, are you attuned to it? Oh, there it is. That's a call to action. That's what we're doing tomorrow night in the guided visualization. Yep, we're going to align to it, attune to it, and know that you are a resource for yourself to align with and attune to in every moment. Now, there's something else that occurred to me as I was writing this talk. Because here we are doing yoga. And you know of it as like a class, right? You know of it as like a hard class in a hot room. And by the way, there's that fear. Oh no, I can't go. Oh no, I can't do that. Oh no. But how does yoga relate to this concept of ego versus higher self, of fear versus intuition? What's yoga's part in that? And I'm going to tell you, remember at the very beginning of the talk, we introduced Barb, we introduced Dominique, we introduced Spencer, introduced Lisa, introduced who else is in the room right now that's on stage? Anyone else on the... Betty's not on stage yet.
Oh, not on stage.
Yeah, no. I did say yeah. First I got to get her doing yoga. And once she does, one day, Mark my words. Betty is going to call me in. Okay, this is a repeat after me game. Kim.
Kim.
This is Betty.
This is Betty.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready to allow more for myself in my life.
I'm ready to allow more for myself in my life.
That's literally all it takes.
Yeah.
But here's what I was saying, is that, do you know, we hear all these, teachers say all these things in yoga. They say breath is a bridge between mind and the body. But when you are, I'm going to call it self-cultivating. When you're self-cultivating on your mat, in a room, a yoga room, that's a hot, hard class, you actually are learning mastery. Okay, now a whole other conversation is coming. You're learning mastery of central nervous system. Because, look at that. We talked about fear and intuition, and we talked about ego and higher self, the source of who you are in truth. Ego predominantly resides in like a fight or flight, sympathetic nervous system. Who you are in truth resides in pure time presence, which is like rest and digest, all is well and fine in the world. So that intuitive pure time presence, higher self version of you that exists in you fully, every single one of you, every single one, without exception, whether you know it or not, believe it or not, practice it or not, you already are this. Will you connect to it? It's there for you. So again, that's what I want to help you do tomorrow night. But let's talk about real-time examples. Let's talk about like practical, tangible, functional examples of mastery of central nervous system. Because I help people develop mastery over their central nervous system by standing on a stage and doing postures when their central nervous system is zinging. They've got one chance and one chance only, and everyone's watching. They're even asking to be judged. In that moment, to execute a posture that you have to be very, very flexible to get into, and you have to be very, very strong to hit that and hold it in stillness against gravity. That will bring you to pure time presence and the control of the mind in the way that the body is a learning device for the mind, and you'll have the ability to do what I call stop, drop, and vortex and command everything you need, but the really hard part, nothing that you don't. Our thoughts are thinking us. Our thoughts are thinking us so rapidly that we cannot categorize, itemize, we can't count them. It's kind of like impossible. So all of this yoga, practice, cultivation, training, teaches you actually the qualities of mind. I'm going to call it self-control, determination, patience, faith, and concentration. You're learning all of that literally every time you stand on your mat and do a class, whether you know it or not. That's the kind of thing that I really like to talk about. Now, how could you convert from ego to higher self, from fear to higher self, where the intuition is there for you? Well, the first and most important key is the breath. The breath is a bridge between mind and the body, and the breath can bring you into pure time presence, where you can concentrate, where you can command, where you can be deliberate about your thoughts. Do you understand that you get to choose your perceptions? Did you know that your perceptions are your choosing? And I would suggest that you choose your perceptions from the higher purview, not from the lower. You choose your perceptions from union. You choose your perceptions from trusting yourself. Trusting yourself to know what your truth is, right? You have so much more power than you realize. I do want to tell you that when, I don't know if it was 2 years ago, when Russia invaded Ukraine, I was here, Ina was there, and she asked me to talk from like the spiritual purview?
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know you were there.
yeah.
And I remember my response, first of all, was a resounding yes. Yes, I want to talk about war from a spiritual purview. But I also remember, although I had a lot of clarity about what I wanted to talk about, I had some concern about the audience's, the amount of time that I have to introduce some concepts that can get us all on the same page in preparation for this conversation, right? That was the challenge. I did it. I did it on time. We recorded it. It was amazing. We had great Q&A, great question and answer. But what came from that? You know, like my big takeaway. Do you remember it well enough to have a big takeaway?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Personal power.
Yeah.
I want you guys to understand how much power you have to inform the field. And others are in response to it. It's the whole be the change you wish to see in the world. It's a lot of accountability. Listen, most of spirituality is accountability and forgiveness. Yeah. So in a field of accountability and forgiveness, you become the higher self. In pure time presence, trusting your intuition. That's the way it goes. That's what the work is, for the most part. So I want to ask, is there anyone that wants to contribute? Maybe one of the fears that you pulled up when I said, can you please contemplate, what are the fears in your life? What is it keeping you from? How is it holding you back? How is it holding you stuck or unhappy? What would you do without that fear? What could you be? What would you learn? So on and so on. Is there anything that anyone wants to contribute? Is there anything you want to talk about? Any questions you want to pose?
I'll have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't
We
think
have
you
a
can.
big fear going
Nice.
on.
Nice to see. No, I'm good with the fears. But I like the fear. There's some stuff that, in life, there's things that are good for you. There's things that are good for the people around you. And then there's your higher purpose. And sometimes those things are a part of the equation, but sometimes it's I know just what way can you tell me what in health respects or in so many I'll just why am I turning right here? I know I'm not supposed to go right. This is gonna make me late. I'm I turn right anyways. I can't stop. Oh, my jack, right? But then something happens and it's well, Byron Katie, every time you argue with reality, you lose, and only every time. Right? Is that second?
What was the last part of what you said?
Every time you argue with reality, you lose, and only every time.
I don't understand the last part of what you're saying.
Well, because it either
Part of reality you lose.
you lose.
And only
Every time
Every
you argue
time.
with reality.
Because a lot of times it's
argue with reality is resistance.
yeah, a lot of times it's easy. Everything happens for a reason. You can tell your friend everything will work better. But then when I'm caught in traffic, I'm fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
But so it's every time. It's a
Okay.
shift.
Yes. I want to say, the first quote that I want to say to you is this. Where's this from? I'm quoting one of the wisdoms. The universe is in a perpetual state of synchronization for those who have eyes to see. And when you're fully aligned, you trust that. Just, was that yesterday? I went all the way to Joshua Tree to buy a birthday present for Dominique. And on the way home, I just had this thought. Oh, actually I should swing in here and grab this, that, and this. And I said yes to it. I didn't mean to do it, I needed to get back, so on, so on, so on. But I had this thought, I said yes to the thought, and I bumped into someone and had one of the most important conversations that we've been needing to have for a few years.
Yay.
We talked for, we stood in Marshalls and talked for more than 2 hours. In pure pure time presence in a field of trust with no judgment. And I call that like vibrational creation. Now, in the way, so the answer that I want to give you, Gussie, is that the universe is in a constant, perpetual state of synchronization. And by the way, that's manifestation. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Bashar, if you follow that. This chapter named Bashar has a formula. And Bashar's formula is that you, number one, tune into your passion. Tune into something that just energizes you, excites you, and inspires you. You have a love of doing it. You love that about yourself when you do it. It feels good to do it. And then you do that. You do it as long as you can, as much as you can, in as many ways as you can. But then sometimes what happens is the bottom just drops out of it. But when the bottom drops out of it, people tend to freak. They tend to think they've lost their purpose, something's wrong, and so on and so on. There's a Buddhist philosophy that says the path to enlightenment is seldom the shortest distance from A to B. It has twists and turns along the way. So back to Bashar's formula, you follow your passion as long as you can, as deeply as you can, in as many ways as you can. And when the bottom drops out, you don't perceive it as something's wrong. You know, okay, the universe is in a process of synchronization. I trust it. I trust the universe. I trust my ability to decipher the cues. And so now it's time for a different move. What will it be? Time to retune and realign to your passion. Because the shortest distance, because the path to enlightenment, the path to your destiny, to your dharma, is seldom the shortest distance. And the universe is just lining it up for you. In my mind, I use that visual of the little dance game where the steps light up, it lights up and you take the step, and it lights up and you take the step, and it lights up and you take the step, right? That's like the way the universe works. It works through synchronization. It's like crazy. I happen to be in this one place in the right time with the right person who said the right thing. Boom, my life changed. Synchronization of the universe. So when you attune to it, and you don't resist it, you align to it, and without fear, you follow the path, you can feel fairly certain that the universe is synchronizing these things.
And the central nervous system helps regulate that.
100%. 100%. I'm not sure though if I addressed your question or comment fully. Did I?
Yeah, and I think I've just been thinking about these like hijacking things that happen in my life all the time. It's like, it's every pragmatic thing says do this, and then there's something else like we've been in relationships that lasted too long, but there was some reason you were staying in there, right? Because
Fear. If you're talking about a relationship, and one second, I'm going to come right to you after we address this. If you're talking about a relationship that you stayed in too long, and by the way, there are only a few things to be afraid of, and especially when it comes to relationships. You can be afraid of loss. Loss of what? Loss of stability, perceived security, fear that you got to have someone. If you don't have that person, you might not find another person to love you. That's fear. Fear of loss of self. Who am I without this? If not that, then who? Who am I if I'm not this? Right? But connecting to your truth was imprinted upon you by a collective agreement, a cultural agreement, a collective agreement, a familial agreement. What you should do, a successful life, is that you go to high school, you graduate, you go to college, you meet a sweetheart in college, you establish your career, get married, 2.5 kids, white picket fence. You should do that. And then you stay together until death do you part. And if you don't, you're a failure. What? That's a should. And those shoulds, which are just a collective agreement, and it is absolutely positively nothing more than that, are imprinted upon us so heavily that we actually believe in it, abide in it, and stay because we should, because we think it's the right thing to do. But I'm going right thing to do for me. It's safe for me to tell you exactly what is right for me. And that is that I will let myself be what I call fully expressed on every level of being, on the level of the mind, which is what I call the outpicturing of the consciousness. And what that means is, let's say Barb just says something to me, I receive it, I filter it through my perception, and I decide on a response. I take my response and I wrap it neatly, like properly with a bow, bless you, and I give it back to her, and that's my contribution that comes from my consciousness. So I get to be fully expressed on the level of the mind with the contribution from my consciousness. I get to be fully expressed in the way that I feel. My feelings matter. That's my emotional guidance system. That tells me when I'm aligned and misaligned. It tells me when I'm truth and when I'm not truth. It tells me when I'm coming from fear, when I'm coming from higher self, when I'm coming from egoic construct, right? When I'm trusting my intuition versus being afraid and shutting it down. So I get to be fully expressed on the level of the mind. I get to be fully expressed on the level of the feelings. I get to be fully expressed on the level of spirit, which is where I reside. It's the greatest part of all of us. And to be loved for exactly my most authentic contributions. That's what I want for me. That's also what I want for my partner. And so if you're in this should relationship where you're like handcuffed together, probably neither of you are fully expressed on every level of being and love for the contributions, who you are in truth. When you align to the higher self that we've talked about tonight, and somebody loves you exactly as you are for who you are in truth, that's the one you stick with. That's the one that's good for everyone. It's good for you, it's good for the partner you'll be with, it's good for the partner that you freed so that they can have the same thing, and that is a good model for society. That's my take on it. I think now I've answered your question. Is that true? Have I answered the question?
You're amazing.
Yeah. Should is fear. Should is a template that we abide in without even knowing. Do you realize there are so many things that we agree to we don't even understand that we're agreeing to? We don't understand what we're agreeing to until we have these conversations. Satsang, right? Now, tell me, what did you want to say? Thanks for waiting so patiently.
I'm wondering from your perspective, if you don't buy into bad things happen, because if you could take something, let's just say, for example, you get in a car accident. Some people would say that's perceived as bad.
Yes.
You get hurt, you don't get hurt, whatever. But I'm going to spin it that maybe you would take it as, hey, what is the lesson I need to learn from this? Or maybe I met somebody in this accident that I needed to meet, you know, the person that you collided with or whatever. So I kind of get the feeling that you live your life thinking that everything happens for a reason, and that sometimes it's really hard to trust that the universe is aligning these things to happen for a reason. Would that be incorrect?
Sometimes it's hard to trust that the universe is aligning these things. I think I just want to like speak into it in, I think the shape of this is going to be like this, and then we'll like zero in on it, something like that. Yes to so many options that you gave. It might be a call for more presence. Like if you were on your phone and you ran into a mailbox, that's a call for more presence.
Right.
Clearly, right? Okay, I wasn't being present. It's inconvenient, it's costly. And yes, there are opportunities for, well, because of the car accident, you know, I fell in love with the mechanic, like you know, you're just, like, whatever, you never know where that's going to lead you to. But there's this other thing that you brought up for me, and that's for those of you that, if you know me, you know, that I do this thing that I call teaching on every level of being. I have a 10-minute clock in my head. I've given a vow to finish on time. I teach on every level of being. And there are a couple of resources that I use in support of that. And one of them is called Messages from the Body. And I want to tell you that every injury, illness, disease, diagnosis, and even your habitual tone is a message from the body that is decipherable as to where the spiritual work lies in your life. And this is because, for example, let's say I had a car accident in your example, and I got hurt. There are infinite number of possibilities of what could be hurt. But if it happens to be my right shoulder, that carries a message. If it happens to be my left ear, that carries a message. Because there are infinite possibilities of what you could experience as a result of the accident, but you're being directed to what you need to know, what you need to hear. And I use that resource in my teaching. We talk a lot about what hurts, where it hurts, what that means, what was happening in your life when it presented, what's the message there, right? What do you need to forgive? What do you need to remember within you? So there are a lot of ways to look at car accidents, and I have to tell you, it's just way too easy to just react to it and say, you know, God, that sucks. No value to it, right? You can gain value from every moment in your life, every experience, every breath, every introduction, every choice, every action. There's always something for you if you're open to receiving, right? So that's what I like to do. I like to really flush to the surface what's there for you to receive in all of your experiences, and relationships are biggies. And I will tell you that I do believe with all certainty that no matter what happens, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's an accident, no matter what it is, it will be what's required for your soul's learning. I do believe that for sure. And I also know this with all certainty from the spiritual work that I've done for myself, and that is that we have patterns in our life, but the patterns look nothing alike. They seem completely unrelated. One might be with respect to a business partner in a business. The other is with respect to your life partner. The other is with respect to some, let's say, deep-seated self-sabotage of an experience. The other. They all turn out to be from the same limiting belief that you hold within your causal field. That's important. We have
Causal field, what was that?
causal. Thank you. I was just going to tell you. Yeah, causal field is the level of the mind who we think we are. Who we think we are. That was what I talked about with the egoic construct, right? You come into the world, you've got this precognitive agreement, and then you've got this who you think you are, and it was largely introduced to you by who your mother thought she was, who your father thought he was, how they were together, who they told you you are, and then the other familial components, right? So the causal field is who you think you are. And every single bit of your life comes from within. You take a self-perception, which is who you think you are, you project it into the world, and you look for evidence of it to verify and validate. All of that happens in the causal field. And I do ascribe to the belief that every single injury, disease, illness, diagnosis, and habitual tone comes from a thought. And you've got to do that work to really single out that thought that is the cause of these repeating patterns of whatever they are, however they show up. But the spiritual work is realizing that they're all the same. These patterns are all from the same thought. The astral field is the emotional body. And I want to tell you, pay attention to your feelings, because your feelings are 100% of the time in response to your thoughts and beliefs in the causal. And then the body is the reconciliation of the causal and astral. So when things happen in the body, it's a little bit like tripping a circuit, like a circuit breaker, right? If you just ignore yourself long enough, if you ignore your truth, if you ignore your feelings long enough, something's going to blow. That's another reason why it matters that you do this work. So do you know, anytime I have a pain, a discomfort, any little thing, like, jam a finger, stub a toe, whatever, I go, ooh, I hear you, I care. care about what you're trying to tell me. And then like I go look it up. There's always something there for me and for everyone that I support in this as well. So that's what I mean in part when I say that I teach you on every level of being. I'm really reading the habitual tone so that I can understand better your relationship with yourself in your life.
Can I just say, for anyone who is a member here at the studio, we have a copy of that book. So if you want to look at your stuff when you're here, it's on the bookshelf out front.
Yeah.
It's just, it stays here, but feel free to pull it down and,
Take a picture.
yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
it's in alphabetical order. So look up what ails you and take a photo of it and contemplate deeply. And so since Betty said that, I'm just going to say, first of all, the way that book is written. Reading it is one thing, knowing what to do about it is a very different story. And the way it's written, it's just like listed in alphabetical order with great specificity. It's written in a way that is quite like severe, harsh. It's not sugarcoating anything. And sometimes there are some entries like breast cancer that have like 12 different entries. So it'll be like a paragraph and it'll say or, a paragraph, or, and you'll like read it and you'll say, yeah, not really, and then you read the one and you go, oh, you feel the one that it is, and you know it when you feel it. And all the examples of your life come up through the message. And that's where the forgiveness is required. Okay, and then that talks about, now we're getting into a different story of forgiveness. So I think I'll pause there. So what we talked about tonight is how can you discern between fear and intuition? Do you have a pretty good sense of that? Did we kind of address it, cover it, so you can really decipher, okay, well that's fear. Ooh, it's intuition. I think one thing I didn't say about intuition is that frequently it happens that somebody else is not able to connect to their truth, come from love, and feel safe to say, so they leave all kinds of things unsaid. But you know, don't you? You know when someone doesn't say something, you know it. You know what's not being said. When someone is judging you and talking about you, you know it. You know when people are talking about you, right? Intuition. It's not fear, it's actually your intuition. So we talked about the difference between fear and intuition. I think we covered it pretty well. We talked about the difference between ego and higher self. I think we talked about that one pretty well. And then we brought in all kinds of things about like central nervous system and messages from the body and all of the things, manifestation, formula for manifestation, synchronicities in the life, and so on. So I think that for the satsang tonight that will launch the entire weekend, we are complete. Thank you for coming tonight. Yes, thank you. These are important conversations that matter. I promised I would finish on time, and I did. But I actually am here, and this is what I'm here for, and I'm available to you. So we'll go out to the lobby, and if you want to come say hi, please do.
Recording stopped.
Thank you, thanks. If you want to share any private thoughts, please do. I'm still here.
If I can make a brief thing, if you borrow something from the studio, please bring it up front, and we will fold it and put it away for you.